What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant today, we are looking at everybody's favorite stat stick at the moment. Of course, that is Secret Garden, which is a tactical rifle of the ultimate variety in the game right now. Now, at the moment right now, Innis is super popular. I would probably consider myself an Innis main at the moment. And that means that Secret Garden has really jumped up in popularity because it is her best in slot weapon. That's because its ultimate ability actually empowers her skills even more, and she's already a powerhouse when it comes to that. So this just, kind of like elevates that. But it's also because of the fact that this is just a really good weapon, and actually something that I thoroughly enjoy using. With the level 10 weapon cores that we can slot into it right now, this thing is not just a stat stick anymore. You can use it to bully void intercept bosses. It can absolutely put the hurt on yellow bar enemies. And just all in all, if you decide to invest some catalyst into this weapon, you're going to end up with a really good weapons platform. But let's go ahead and start from the beginning, and let's just quickly mention exactly why it's such a good stat stick. So there's actually two effects that come from Secret Garden. The ability is called Gardener, and when you're using dimension skills, it gives you a way to actually recoup some of your custom resource. This is okay, but this is definitely not the highlight of the weapon. And one of the reasons why this ain't that great is because of the fact that its trigger rate is kind of poopies. So 39% trigger rate for only 10% custom resource recovery is not that great, and is definitely not a reason to hunt this weapon down. This is kind of useful on, let's say, Ajax or someone like that, but the real reason why you want this for Innis is because of the second ability, which is pest control. Now this is when using a tech skill, and of course if you are playing Innis, whether you are bossing or whether you are using a mobbing variety, all of your skills will be tech due to your module that you're using, your Transcendent mod, which I'll show just now. And the point is then all your abilities are tech, so you're always capitalizing on this. And this has a 50% trigger rate, but all of your abilities are tech, and especially the fact that you are spamming your first ability the whole time means that this is almost always up. It has a 10-second duration, it has 3 stacks, and it increases your firearm attack but also your skill power, and then per each consecutive stack it's actually more. So this is just a really powerful weapon to have in your hands at all times. Even if you decide to not spend a single catalyst on it, it is absolutely worthy of just being in your arms as you run around with any Descendant that uses tech abilities, but more so even Innis. Quickly getting back to what I said, of course, the reason why Secret Guard is a great stat stick is all of our abilities are tech abilities, and they're tech abilities because of Time of the Hunting Hounds, which is the Transcendent mod that you should absolutely use with Innis when you use this weapon. Now the build itself, I haven't changed too much with this. I've done a few videos now on Secret Garden. Basically every time that we've managed to increase the power level with weapon cores and stuff like that, I've done like a refresh, and this is the latest version of that. So if you are familiar with my builds and if you've seen it before, there's not going to be anything new here for you to spend catalyst on, at least not that I think. I think I already in the previous one had mental focus in, but if not, that might be the new addition. So the point here is that you end up with a very high DPS number here of 2.3 million. And this is essentially coming from, I would say, two places. First of all, the stats of the Secret Garden are very good and start from a very good position. And when you stack everything in that we're looking at right now, you end up with a gun that is kind of like nuts. It has 90.5% crit chance and a 7.2 times multiplier. So even though the base fire attack value is not that high, and we get weapons that have far higher than that, the point is, without any manipulation of the crit chance, this isn't on like fucking Haley or anybody like that. This is Innis holding it, who has like basically no way of increasing this. That this is a super high value, which means you're basically critting all the time, and when you do crit, it hits really hard. So the mods on here, I think, are pretty self-explanatory for a crit-based platform, but we can just quickly go through them. We have some fan favorites here: action, reaction, rifling, reinforcement. Of course, those ones just boosting up your attack power. I put fire enhancement on here because this actually does not have an element. And so if you want to use a different element, you can absolutely do that. The reason why I do that is because this gives me another 30% of my firearm attack as an element. You can absolutely change this to whichever element you want. You can look at this as basically maybe being the swing slot, or like one that you can kind of like change around for whichever one you want. So you can multiple catalyze this, and then you can have a multiple element Secret Garden. We of course have a mod on here for mag size. Then we have some crit, we have some crit damage, we have a massive amount of crit damage, and we have a massive amount of crit. That is how I end up at a high crit and a high crit damage multiplier. So better insight, better concentration, concentration priority, and edging shot is our, let's say, lethal combo that gets us that super high crit and super high crit damage. I use fire rate concentration on here, so we have a little bit less fire rate than just normal blue fire rate mod, but it gives us additional firearm critical hit damage of 5%, which is not a lot, but every little bit fucking works for us here, and we basically squeezing it in there. Now, mental focus is going to drop our fire rate even a little bit more, but when we shoot the weapon, our firearm attack is going to go up by 1.5% for 2 seconds, up to 60 stacks. Now, in our magazine, we have 75 bullets. So we have enough bullets to get to those 60 stacks if you decide to stick on one enemy and literally plow all 75 of your bullets into it, and that means you're going to get the maximum benefit from it. However, every once in a while, if you just want to ramp up on a yellow bar or something like that, it means that you are still going to get that benefit of additional firepower as long as you keep it trained on the enemy and as long as you keep pumping bullets into them, which is one of the reasons why I like this, because I actually rotate this into, like when I play with Innis, I use this a lot to just kind of like erase yellow bars. So it's one of the reasons why I chose to build this out. It's a great stat stick, but it's also a fucking insane weapon with sick damage, and that combined together is almost like the perfect weapon. So then, finishing us out, I think that's pretty much it. We have mental focus on there. Now, when we look at our substats on here, I ended up going for firearm critical hit damage, firearm attack, weak point damage, and firearm critical hit rate. Kind of like a no-brainer for me here. Yes, you could potentially, instead of weak point damage, you could take rounds, magazine, or something like that. I think 75 for this weapon is okay, and at the same time, our reload is not terrible. 1.6 seconds is not that bad, so I don't mind reloading for 1.6 seconds to get my 75 bullets back again. So that's kind of okay. Then coming to the juicy weapon cores, of course. As I mentioned, I really like the weapon core setup for Secret Garden. Special augmentation down here is a little bit of an eyesore, but I believe that if this was anything else, this weapon would be like the best weapon in the game, honest to God. But we do have a free slot, we have a hit slot, and we have 2 precision slots. Okay, so for our free slot here, I went for firearm attack. As I said, I want to highlight the fact that this gun can actually pack a punch when it actually hits something. And with weapon core 10s, you can go all the way up to 80%, which is kind of ridiculous and really makes this thing hit like a fucking Mack truck. Now, for the hit augmentation, we can of course choose between weak point damage, critical hit rate, and critical hit damage. Now, we have a seriously high critical hit rate already, that taking critical hit rate here would be a waste. So critical hit damage is really good for us here, and because we can stack this all the way up to 101%, that's how we get to that high multiplier of over 7 times. So this thing actually like just slays, and if you put it into a gun-based Descendant's hands, it's as good as some of the other better weapons that are available, albeit it has a smaller magazine, which might be the only drawback that I would consider. Now, when it comes to the 2 precision slots on here, here's where you really see the power of the level 10 cores. Because prior to level 10 cores being available, I was actually running double sprint speed on here. Of course, grappling hook charge time is really good. Double grappling hook charge time is good because it means you can stay in the air indefinitely, which has its own advantages. But I really like the double sprint speed because I was using it on Innis, and it would mean that I could go all the way up to almost 1,300 sprint speed on her when I had activated her 4th ability. That being said, okay, now that we have weapon 10 cores, it means that our sprint speed can on one core go all the way up to 20%, which is more than enough. But more specifically, if we get a perfect roll on our grappling hook charge time increase of 0.46 negative, it means that we practically have the same effect as having 2 of those rolls from a weapon 7 core, and that means that we can also stay in the air indefinitely with this, which is really cool and a fantastic quality of life for a weapon like this. It makes you feel super fast and snappy and just sort of like flying all around the fucking battlefield. It's dope as shit. It's another reason why I like playing Innis so well right now, because not only is her whole kit perfect, but even the weapon that she has to carry to make her kit even better also makes her feel better to play. So just all in all, a really nice setup. I can't complain. That's it for the Secret Garden. Let me know how you've set yours up, if you enjoy this weapon as much as I do. which weapon is your favorite if it isn't Secret Garden. And as always, fucking cheers.